All right, here we go, Jimmy. Excited. This is going to be a lot of fun. You always hear the coaches, what you do in Q4 is going to impact Q1, and it is true. I actually tweeted this earlier today. I'm working on my new book, and it was basically that small activities daily are what create big income yearly. And that's what I want everyone tuning in today. That's where I want your head to be when it comes to what we're going to teach. If you will execute these 10 ideas, many of which are just small little things that you can work into your routine, you will have business waiting for you in January. You will have business waiting for you. And some of this stuff's fun, Jimmy. It's not all like pound the phones and dial for dollars. It's not like stuff that's unappealing to do. It's digital marketing. It's social media. It's stuff for your past clients. It's stuff that helps you build your personal brand, stuff that makes your marketing better, your advertising better. So we broke it down. We're going to go through it, but the four buckets, if you're taking notes, the four buckets are going to be things you can do for your past clients, things you can do to build your personal brand, things you can do in your marketing, and things you can do in your advertising. And Jimmy, before I pull this up, I just wanted to hear from you because you're the CEO of Curaytor. You work day in and day out with hundreds and hundreds of the top teams in the world that have the most listings, that always have listings. Like Jim Trueblood ain't never ran out of listings, Jimmy, since we've known him. And neither did Veronica. Like they always have listings. That's the mecca for a lot of people, is to get to that point. What would you say, just for anybody watching, what is your quick 2 cents on how to become a true listing agent?
Well, it's first off, Chris, great to see you, and this is going to be a lot of fun for us. We're gonna be sharing a lot of really practical ideas that will help you set yourself up for success in Q4. The one thing that nobody talks about, and I mean nobody talks about this, Chris, and it blows me away, is the time it takes to manage a listing versus the time it takes to manage a buyer. And so when you look at these listing first businesses, which is what we advocate, right? People who are focused on getting listings that drive the growth of their business, you realize how much more efficiently they can scale their business without actually having to hire a massive team or feel like they're working 24/7. So I think the first question is why should you run a listing first business? Well, you can generate a lot more income without working more hours. That's the first reason. But the second reason is, and what you see with Veronica and Jim Trueblood and other agents in the Curaytor community who are listing first agents, is that your ability to build a team, which is the pathway to building wealth in real estate, becomes possible when you are always the person with listings. The thing that listing agents do differently, the thing that separates them from buyer's agents, and I think the simplest way to describe this, that encapsulates everything we're going to talk about today, is listing agents make investments, buyer's agents don't.
Yeah.
Listing agents invest in their past clients. They invest in the marketing of their homes. They invest in the marketing of their brand. They invest in the technology, their website. They invest in advertising. They invest in Zillow. They invest their money in the business to grow the business. Buyer's agents don't. Buyer's agents work with customers, they generate income, and they spend that money. And so Jim Trueblood, that dude's got a huge, you're talking about Veronica, like talk about Veronica's office, what she's got down there in Orlando. Like that's an example of an investment that a listing agent would make that a buyer's agent wouldn't make.
Sure. No, I agree. It's just different. And it is the type of advertising. I'm working on these pie charts for the conversion code too. I'm going to plug it a couple times today. But I'm working on these pie charts that basically show how your advertising and marketing dollars should be spent based on where you're at in your business. That's something a lot of people don't talk about. So Veronica's slice of 100% of advertising and marketing, she should be running TikTok ads right now, like 100%. 98% of the people on this call should not. Their pie would be different. And so the different platforms and where do you spend the money and sort of how much do you put into brand versus leads? How does that change over time, right? Because you have this snowball of repeat and referral business growing. You have this brand that's growing. So you're also sort of looking for that cut the cord moment. When can we scale this and make it predictable without even needing to buy expensive leads necessarily, but you got to get there, right?
Mm-hmm.
Most businesses should work on both. Let me pull up the slides, and please let us know where you're watching from in the chat. There's a ton of people on. There's going to be a lot of people that watch this later. Where are you tuning in from? We love to know where people are at. We will answer any questions you guys drop in the chat or the Q&A throughout. But I'm going to get into it, Jimmy. And the first bucket, as promised, is past clients. Okay. The reason we start here is because that's where the most listings come from today. Even these listing agents we're talking about, where do you get all your listings? Past clients, repeat business, referral business, sphere of influence, right? So a lot of times people ask me, well, I'm new. I don't have a lot of past clients. You have a sphere. So substitute past clients for all the people who know you, right? Mm-hmm. Family, friends, colleagues, church, college buddies, right? Like, you don't need past clients to work your network. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. But obviously, the more that you have, it helps. If you're in a business like a Veronica, where you've done thousands and thousands of listings, you would actually start with your past clients who have owned their home within the range of when people traditionally would sell their home. So you would start with like 3+ years or like 4+ years as a past client, right? And that would really be your sweet spot. But I don't want it to just be past clients who have been in their house for 5 years. The things that we're going to mention on this list of ideas for them, you should be doing these things for them no matter where they're at in the cycle, even if they're not a client yet. They're just a social connection. So Jimmy, I'll let you take the lead on this first one, because I know you're familiar with this. Inman News did a write-up about it. I think Steve Passanelli, our friend from BombBomb, told us about it first. Yeah. This agent in 78 days put up $11 million worth of listings. And he did it by rolling up his sleeves and kind of going a little bit one-to-one tactic. Talk about the Jimmy Burgess strategy, not the Jimmy Mackin strategy. I always have to point that out, but this is the Jimmy Burgess strategy.
Well, this strategy is so good that I'm trying to rebrand it as the Jimmy strategy. So people just have to wonder whether it's Burgess or Mackin. But so what Jimmy Burgess does, let me break it down. Chris just gave you the stats. He did $11 million in production, $11 million in listings in a 80 day or not less than 90 days. What he basically does is he pulls up using a screen recorder tool like BombBomb. He pulls up a Google Earth of the individual's home. And that is a thumbnail that lead or that past client is going to see when they open up the email. It's the very first thing they're going to see. And that immediately provides the consumer with the context that this is deeply personalized to them. And then as soon as the video opens up, he immediately transitions into a CMA that he has produced for that client. And it talks about the homes that are selling in the area, what the impact on their home was, talks about, new listings and general market trends. And then he has a call to action basically to talk more about this, or just to have a conversation about, what their real estate plans are, just reply to this email. And that very short 3-minute video generated $11 million in production. Now, what he was doing was just doing a few of these per day. And so the technique is called the unsolicited CMA, as opposed to waiting for the consumer to say, hey, I'd like to know what's going on with the value of my home. He's going out of his way to lead with value. My advice to everyone who's tuning in right now is one of the best ways to apply this on a consistent basis, not just like one time a year, but to do it like on a quarterly basis, is to find a really specific trend that's happening in the real estate industry and use it as a catalyst to say, would you like to know how this impacts your home? Let me give you an example of this. In the first quarter of this past year, I think we gained like, a couple $1 trillion in equity. Right. Just in the first quarter of 2021. So what I would do in this video, if I was going to sort of like make it seasonal, Chris, at the end of this year, I would say, hey, just this year alone, home values increase in our area by 13.5%. And here's a list of the most notable homes that have sold right near your home. Would you like to have a conversation about like learning about how this is going to impact your home in the future, or if this is going to impact your plan to sell? Like, I'm taking a data point that happened recently and then building that as the narrative. It's such a smart strategy. Takes an hour a day, but it's something every agent who's listening right now should be doing. And if you're not doing, this is a great way to sort of get jump started for your Q4 goals here.
Yeah. And I would recommend just like knock this out. Like, even if it's 1 a day, 2 a day, just do it every morning. Like, I'm trying to write a book right now, Jimmy. It's not easy. I wake up, I do 1.5 to 2 hours every single day. I don't skip a day. A couple months later, there's a book. You do this, a couple months later, there's some listings. For sure. I want to give people 5 magic words that you can use with this strategy, the next one, really in any of your copy and your marketing. The Zestimate can't keep up. The Zestimate can't keep up. The Zestimate historically has had challenges keeping up. We are in an unprecedented market with the rise in values over the amount of time that they've gone up. The other thing I like here, Jimmy, is like when you're talking about the equity, 13.5%, I would almost like to see like a chart where it's like 13.5%. It was the average. Here's what that really means. If your home's worth 300, 500, 900, here's the real dollars you gained. So I think being an accountant right now makes a lot of sense, and really dissecting, like, this has been like a wealth creation opportunity for a lot of people. So I would lean into like not wanting to guess when it comes to that. Strategy 2, Jimmy, is saying, okay, where do I create these opportunities? Obviously, you got past clients in your database. You can call them. You can proactively send them the video and the CMA. But if you want to go from Facebook to the phone, if you want to go from social media to selling and having a conversation, and all the top agents do this, they have meaningful conversations every single day with their past clients, their sphere of influence, and obviously the people that they're working with now, hot leads in their database, et cetera. So this is a technique where you open up Facebook, you open up the chat tool, and you're looking for anyone that's green, right? So in this example, Billy and Chad are active now. If someone is active now on Facebook, and usually on Instagram too, the reply rate to the message you send is through the roof. So the question is, what do you send? Because if you send a really smart, well thought out message, you're basically booking an appointment to talk about real estate if you do this the right way. So one idea would be, hey, this estimate can't keep up right now. Their guesses are really off. I'd love to do a CMA for you. I'm blocking off some time. Here's how that would work. Would you like one for your house? And a lot of times going straight for that, you've seen it, Jimmy. Sure. Yes. Thank you. Are you sure? How much does that cost? Right? Or, hey, good timing. We're actually thinking about listing soon. I'm glad you reached out. Perfect timing. So those are the kind of outcomes from this. In the screenshot, it basically says, hey, I'm working on a project. It's a big thing I'm working on. I want to pick your brain. I value your opinion. And so do you have time to chat for a few minutes later today? Use this stuff to get on the phone, and then you can always bring it back to the CMA, the market report of one, as the deliverable. So, take this strategy, use it through here. The other thing that I'm showing on the right there, Jimmy, is one of my favorite hacks for Instagram, definitely going to be featured in the new book, which is that polls greatly outperform any other type of story on Facebook or Instagram. And the more people that take the poll, the more reach the story gets. With stories, you see who looked at the story. With stories with polls, you even see the answer to the poll. So number one, I would be running creative polls regularly, like beyond this particular strategy. But I would be thinking of questions I could ask that would get the most responses, because that's going to actually lead to the most impressions.
Yeah.
In this one, it's a right hook. Are you thinking of selling your home next year? Mm-hmm. That's what I would ask. Are you planning on selling your home in 2022? Yes or no?
Yeah.
And if somebody says yes, clearly we have a good person to follow up with. But I'm a huge fan of polls. These are the people you already know, and kind of mining for gold there.
Yeah, one of the magic words that we featured in Exactly What to Say for Real Estate Agents, which now has nearly 1,000 5-star reviews, which is mind blowing, is we use the phrase "most people," and so I think you can use that in this context. Hey, Chris, most people, or a variation of that would be most of my clients right now who own a home are at least exploring the idea of listing because their home has gained so much value over the last 24 months. Are you thinking about selling your house in 2022?
Yep.
And I think that language kind of primes the consumer to say, oh yeah, maybe I should open this door. But you know what's funny, Chris? As you're talking, I pulled up my screen time on iPhone, and I looked at where I spend most of my time. And the number 2 of the top 3 places are social media apps, right? I spend most of my time on Twitter. I spend so far this week 2 hours on Twitter, and I spend 1 hour and 30 minutes on Instagram. So this week alone, what's today, Wednesday, I spent 3.5 hours on Twitter and Instagram. I'm not going to disclose what number 1 is. And what's crazy about that is, like everyone else, I'm scrolling through my feed, seeing what's going on. And by dropping in a message in their inbox, you're leaning into the psychology of pattern interrupt, and sort of stops people in their tracks, grabs their attention, and you can start a conversation. We did a data analysis at the Curaytor on this. It takes on average 7 conversations to book a single listing appointment. So this is a really smart technique, Chris, where you focus on having a few conversations every day just to book that appointment using the applications people use, like social media, every day.
Yeah. Yeah. The third idea here is something that we've just seen time and time again be a massive hit for the best teams, the best agents, the smartest agents, the listing agents, which is the idea here. And this is an event that Veronica did here in Orlando, where they basically did like movie under the stars. We've seen people give away pumpkins and do like a pumpkin patch and a hayride. You know, there's sort of seasonality that can be worked into this for sure. But the idea of going big for your past clients towards the end of the year here and doing like a get together worth attending makes a lot of sense. It scales. I know if you guys check out the North group, we're going to mention Amy in a second, but I think on their Facebook page, you can see the pumpkin giveaway they did. And these are just reasons to call your past clients that don't have to do with real estate. It doesn't have to be a party. It could be, hey, we're taking donations for toys at our office. You know, we'd love you to drop by and drop something off. You know what I'm saying? It can be charitable, but I love this. It's, you know, it's the Buffini special, right? It's past client events, and there's a whole science to that stuff of who you invite to which type of events and how many people are sort of your VIPs versus your regular client list. But these events just seem to have like a massive ROI. They're fun to do. We've obviously put on client events, and it's our favorite 3 days of the year. So I would say if you've never done one, I don't want to be the person that says COVID's over, because it's not. But most people, like you said, most people are sort of getting back to in-person gatherings. Do it outside, do social distance, right? Like whatever you're comfortable with, either way. But I know that these things work. I would love to know in the chat, actually, what is a past client party that you've done? But Jimmy, what's your add-on here to the past?
Well, first off, I used to think these things were stupid until I had kids. Right. And now I'm like every weekend looking for like, what's something we can do this weekend with my daughter. Right. And so like we went to a pumpkin patch corn maze this past weekend. Right. And that was fun. So it's funny how my mindset has changed on this, but you know, Kevin Owens did something I saw recently that I loved, which he might've done this internally for his team, but he booked out a theater to see the new Bond movie, and he did a big event around it. I saw on social media, and I was like, this is so smart, because theaters are probably so cheap to book right now because no one's going to the theaters. So he booked out a theater, invited to a private screening, which is just an experience that you remember. And I think that's what you're seeing here. And we got some people in the chat who are doing like Santa. Carrie's on the call. What's up, Carrie? Amy just dropped in. She's doing the pumpkin. Allie's doing a yoga in the park. My wife would love that, Allie. I think it's a great opportunity. People are dying to get together, Chris, in a safe way, right? And I think we're starting to see really smart agents take advantage of that.
Yeah, no, I mean, the chat's great. Annual polo match, nearly 4,000 people in attendance. We do a tent with live music, food and drinks, door prizes, tickets to a professional soccer game, yoga in the park, annual giveaway, Santa, pumpkins, pie, a lot of pies, Jimmy. People are giving away pies.
I get
I
it.
guess that's a good, I get, what's up with that? Is that just everybody loves a good pie?
Well, I'll say this: you got to be careful with that stuff, because one of our clients sent me a box of grapefruit. I mean, like 50 grapefruit in a box for holidays one year, but I didn't pick it up for 3 weeks and it was completely rotten. So if you're going to do a pie giveaway, I would just like do it in person, as opposed to like, or drop it off at their house, as opposed to like shipping it and hoping it gets there. But yeah, people love pies. Who doesn't like pie? It's a great idea. I love it.
Cool. Yeah. So I would say just go big in this bucket. All the best agents do. And then Jimmy, this is one that you can speak to. I'll speak to part one. You can kind of speak to the double tap component of this idea, because a lot of these ideas can be applied beyond listing specifically. But this is an email that does really well for past clients. It's basically, what's your plan? Don't necessarily screenshot the one on the screen. It's more of the ideology, like, hey, it's the end of the year. People are making plans for next year. I want to keep updated on yours. And you give a listicle, right? Number one, I love my house. I'm not moving. Have a great holiday season. Number two, I'm thinking about selling my home soon. Number three, thinking about investing soon. Number four, thinking about upsizing, downsizing, or wondering about the market. You're just making it very simple to reply. And the follow-up is just so that I can send you stuff that's really relevant. I think you need different buckets for the people in your network. The more you know about them, the better stuff you can send them. So obviously, if they want to invest, we can meet, we can talk about that. I can send you listings that would be beneficial there, but this is a listicle reply. It gets a lot of replies. And then talk about the text, because obviously text is more impactful, more read, more open, but you call this the double tap. I think you're muted, Jimmy. I'm not sure.
There we go. Yeah. So I took the idea from the double dial from conversion code, and I adapted it for sort of like, mass communication here. But one of the ways to think about this is like the average open rate of an email is, depending on your list, between like 10% to 20%. The average open rate of a text message is 90+%. And so what you're trying to do here is you're trying to, if you can't communicate a lot of information via text, you want to sort of hook them in so they want to go back and check your email. That's all we're really doing here. But what's so smart about this technique is, like, I think it is really important to be of value to customers even when they don't need you. And oftentimes the reason why the retention rates or the repeat rates of customers coming back to agents is so abysmal, and I mean it is abysmal, Chris. It's like under 15%. The reason why it's so bad is because we're trying to perfectly time when they're going to list their house. Let me make sure I'm in front of them. And what you should be thinking about is, I want to have this client, like Lisa calls it, a client for life. She doesn't call them past clients. She calls it client for life. Lisa Archer, clients for life. You want to just constantly be checking in. Hey, what's your plan? Because guess what? You want to be there when they don't need you. So when they do need you, they're going to know that you're going to be there to help them out. And so this is all that's really doing, Chris. I'm okay with people saying, I got no plans. Great. Now I know. Now I can start thinking about ways to deliver value in other ways that don't relate to selling their home.
Yeah. And I think the double tap component could also be back to strategy one. Like, you took the time to do a CMA, you took the time to run the numbers, do the video screen recording, send it over to them. That might be a good time to say, hey, didn't want it to get lost in your inbox. I think you'll find it really insightful. It's a very interesting concept that you have to sell people on checking their email or not missing an email, but you do in some cases. Let's get into personal branding, because, it's like, I always mention Veronica. I don't mention like EXP. I don't mention the Figueroa team. You know what I'm saying? I know she wants me to, and I probably should add those things too. But the reality is, you do typically build a personal relationship where people know you. And then obviously the headshots and the cards, the billboards, everywhere in Orlando, it's guaranteed sale, Mark Spain. you know. He does the same thing in Atlanta. Like, personal branding is a big part of this, as far as having people come to you when it's time to list. So I pulled a couple strategies for this. And the first one I wanted you to talk about, Jimmy, because retargeting is pretty common, right? Meaning somebody goes to your website, you show them stuff and follow them around. And that's one of the tips too, in a second. But where I think there's an opportunity, especially again, kind of depending where you're at with your business, is take your personal brand and proactively be an ad on tons of websites for tons of people in your local market. Meaning the concept of retargeting, which is people see me everywhere, but minus the friction of, if they visit my website, then they see me everywhere, right? So you get the upside of, call it saturating the internet with your brand, without the sort of, downside of having to have them visit first, because a lot of people don't get a lot of traffic. So talk a little bit about the Google Display Network, because I feel like that's something that people don't tap into. They only do the retargeting, if that.
Yeah. Maybe the best way to illustrate the value of this, Chris, is to give an example. Are you guys familiar with the brand Monday.com? Just drop in the chat. Have you heard of Monday.com? Or more recently, another example would be ClickUp, right? Maybe you guys have seen the ads for ClickUp. And what's in more than half of the people here are saying, yes, I've seen Monday, I've seen ClickUp. And ClickUp is really huge here in Boston. It's in sort of every major metro area now. But what's interesting about these brands is that there are thousands of micro project management tools out there. And Monday.com and ClickUp are two that come to the forefront of my mind. Now, I've never searched for Monday.com. I never went to their website. I never went to ClickUp's website. I never searched for ClickUp. I don't follow them on social media, but I know that brand, Chris, because that brand is literally everywhere here in Boston. It's ClickUp, and their message is like save an hour a day using ClickUp, or save like 5 hours a week using ClickUp. And like, that's all they talk about. And so what ClickUp and what Monday are doing is they are effectively using branding, a Google display, they do it in the physical world as well, but they're using sort of this branding strategy to raise awareness that they exist. If people don't know you exist, they can't hire you. And so the reason we offer this as a service for Curaytor clients is because we say, hey, you might only have like 5,000 people we can target because they visited your website, they follow you social, but your larger audience is like 100,000 people. So we're only tapping into 5,000 or 5% of your total addressable audience. So we got to get your name, your face, your brand, your message in front of those individuals. Now, here's the key. It isn't just about listings here, Chris, because a lot of people do that. Like, hey, let's just use Google Display to get listings. No, this is about you. We want to build an association with who you are and what you do with the target audience that you are going to potentially serve. So Google Display Network provides you the ability to serve ads to people who have no idea that you exist. That's a big deal. And ironically, even though it's been around for a very long time, very few people take advantage of it, Chris.
The other option was sort of putting your personal brand out there. And there's some really cool stuff I'm researching right now, Jimmy, around eye testing. And they have these heat maps, and they basically track people's eyes as they interact with the web. So where do their eyes look, on a certain ad, you know what I'm saying? Or on a certain website, and it'll put a heat map right over it. And it's really like so clear when you see that data and those visuals that the number one thing people are attracted to is other people's faces. It's literally impossible not to look. Like, people do have banner blindness in general. People do tend to tune things out in general. But in this example, this is our man, Sam Park. If any of these ads pop up on any of your devices, mobile, tablet, desktop, there's a almost 100% chance that you're actually going to take a second to look at Sam right in the face. So we found that the retargeting ads with humans typically actually perform better for clicks than something a little bit more generic, or call it stealth or non-branded. Even in the case of retargeting with a couple that you worked with, like a happy couple success story, those ads tended to get clicked on quite a bit. So I just think that there's a big opportunity here to lean into this for the right folks. And you still really don't see it. I'm going to take a chance here, Jimmy. I love your 2 cents while I do this, but I'm going to see if I can find the eye tracking.
Yeah. Well, while you're pulling it up, and the thing that I think is such an opportunity here, with all the changes that are happening with how you can cookie and how you can retarget people, there's still so many options you have to serve ads to people once they've engaged with your audience. And so what Chris is showing here is the heat map. So what a heat map is effectively they're able to analyze through computer vision where people's attention goes when they actually visit a page. So you can see here, like, by the way, Chris, there you go with the baby shot here. Like all of your attention locks in on the human being first, then you read the copy, then you click the button. That's why having humans and ads makes sense. Otherwise, like, they have to read a bunch of copy, which very few people actually do, Chris.
Yeah. No, I find this kind of stuff fascinating. I'm sure not everyone does, but if there were a case for like putting your picture on stuff, I'll give people one other little pro tip here, because we're going to cover the importance of promoting listings. And like, if you make your listings famous, you're going to make your personal brand famous. And for that. Yeah. So I think maybe sometimes people over-index the personal brand a little bit. Sometimes they under-index it, but you want to find the right balance, right? Between, like, you shouldn't be great at promoting yourself if you're not great at promoting listings. Like that feels kind of wrong, if you will. The other opportunity here, Jimmy, for personal brand is people who do video. They become like real estate rock stars because they make these amazing videos. They get on video. Our boy Brad McCullum, Amy Youngren, who's listening in right now. I can't really think of successful agents and teams that aren't bringing it into their marketing mix in some capacity, especially those wanting to build their personal brand. Yeah. But I asked my audience recently, have you ever run a YouTube ad? Because just like the Google Display Network, you can create a video, but who watches it and how much of it do they watch? And how many people actually consume the video more than 50%? Those things matter. And YouTube provides a lot of that. So 90%, 89% of agents have never run a YouTube ad. Okay. 10% have. So now all of a sudden it's like, I'm doing the trenches stuff with my past clients. I'm doing the personal brand stuff through the display network retargeting. And now I can also add YouTube as an inexpensive channel. Like you talked about Monday.com. Let me ask the people on the chat, and this will just be interesting to me. Are you familiar with Ty Lopez? Do you know who Ty Lopez is? And I'm interested to see the answers here. He has been less active recently. A couple no's, a yes, a no, a yes. Pretty close to 50-50. But, oh God, yes. See him all the time. Yeah. So
that's a typical reaction.
But Ty Lopez literally just used YouTube ads to get in front of as many people as possible. Like he literally did like a selfie video in his garage with his books and his Lambo. And he didn't wait for people to find that video. He invested a ton in YouTube advertising, mostly probably in his demographic of, call it young dudes that want to be rich like him and drive Lambos too, right?
Yeah.
But the point is, if you really know what you're trying to target, you can actually saturate something, right? In this industry, we need to saturate the local airwaves. You know what I'm saying? So it's not as much of a challenge as Monday.com or Ty Lopez, where you're trying to gain national consciousness. You're just trying to do this in like Tampa or Naples, you know, like it's actually not that overwhelming. Anything to add on YouTube ads? This is under the personal brand bucket.
Yeah, I think the way to think about this is mind share equals market share. And so YouTube ads provides one of the best filters for targeting of any social media platform out there, which is they do something called in market. And what YouTube is able to do is they're able to use, because YouTube is owned by Google, the vast sort of database of data that Google has about people's search history and what they're looking for and what they clicked on. And you can effectively say, if someone lives in my area and is actively in the market of buying and selling a home, right? I want to get my ad in front of them. And so that one feature, that in-market audience, is an incredible way for you to serve your ads to the right people who live in your area, thus building up your mind share, which will result in more market share for you. Mary Meek put out data on this, Chris, recently. She said 82% of all traffic on the internet in 2022 will be video. We've said it before. If you don't have a video strategy, you don't have a marketing strategy. So we are just big believers in the importance of using video, but you can't just post it on YouTube and wait for people to discover you. Put $100, $200 a month behind that to get that in front of thousands of people who live in your local area. That's our advice.
Yeah. And don't get fooled by some of the vanity metrics Facebook provides, because a lot of times the view on Facebook is weak at best. Right. Yeah. If you look at the retention rate, the percentage of completion, amount of time people are willing to spend, it's infinitely better on YouTube. So good stuff there. Last two buckets, Jimmy, marketing and advertising. And if you guys are enjoying this, let us know on Instagram, hit us up, let us know in the chat. If you guys are writing these things down, taking notes, planning to execute. We went through past clients. We went through personal branding tips. Now we're going to get into marketing and then advertising. And thank you guys for the nice feedback in the chat. Awesome. Andrea, L. Rogers, a couple Andreas, James Ken, YouTube ads. So when it gets into marketing, Jimmy, direct mail marketing, it's funny. We're going to talk about the #1 agent in Raleigh to wrap up the webinar in a few minutes. And it's actually OpenDoor. OpenDoor is the #1 agent in Raleigh. Jimmy's going to explain what that means and how that happened. But I don't know if you know this, Jimmy, one of their biggest strategies was the mailbox. They were mailing people instant offers. They weren't as heavy on social. They weren't as big. They didn't have as much funding like in the earlier days. They were doing direct mail. And there's obviously just listed and just sold. The issue there is you have to have had a listing or a sold. If you do, I would highly recommend the mailbox. You know, constantly when those things are happening, I think it's a great idea. And I think all of a sudden it's like, oh, you're in their inbox, they're at your party, they see your YouTube ad, right? Like all of a sudden you mail them a nice postcard that one of their neighbors just listed, right? But there's also opportunities to do direct mail when it's not a just listed or a just sold. This is something called the Magic Buyer Letter. Our friend Amy Youngren shared one that she used, and it's very simple. People want to buy homes like yours. Like we're working with people that are looking for a home in your neighborhood and they're frustrated. They can't find one. If you're thinking of selling soon, please let me know. So it's almost like what you're doing, Jimmy, is you're saying, I might have an instant offer for you. Right. Because I know of this person, and she describes the person. I think it is charming to, you know, give a little bit of facts about them or humanize them, if you will. They're not just like leads in her database.
Yeah.
But I think it does a couple things. Number one, it can help find listings. Number two, it shows the buyer that you're going above and beyond to help them find a place, right? That's another sort of peripheral benefit of this. So, we're saying direct mail. This is one thing you can do, which is send a letter like this, but there's other things you could be doing too. Like maybe that people in the chat can let me know, like Amy, love seeing this. Quick question in the chat. How much does it cost per piece to mail, to send mail? I don't know if people know this off the top of their head. I'm sure a lot of the people on the call are doing direct mail, but what's the price per piece of a postcard or a letter like this? One of the funniest things I ever got, Jimmy, and one of the most effective, by the way, is I ended up getting this, what I thought was something from Amazon Prime. It was like a fairly oversized color. Yeah. It had the Amazon Prime color and tape, and it was sort of like a brochure. And I was just like, oh, like I'm willing to open something from Amazon, almost every single time. So I open it and it was a car dealership. And and then upon further review, it said Amazing Prime. It didn't say Amazon Prime. So that would be the extreme version of, kind of call it tricking somebody into opening your mail. Right.
Yes.
But let's look at the price per piece.
Well, people were asking, yes, so 70 cents, $1, right? It's effectively under $1 per piece. It's funny. Someone was saying, like, there's some fair housing stuff around this in California. Not surprised California is already putting legislation to make things more difficult. That's a very California thing to do. But someone was asking earlier around, does this work? And Amy's saying, yes, it works. But, this strategy, the magic buyer letter, one of our other clients, Danny Fleming, who is the #1 agent in Lexington, Mass, she uses this magic buyer letter. So she heard about this strategy a few months ago because we talked about it with Curaytor clients internally. She immediately, rolled up the sleeves, did the work, and she's been using it. And so just in the last, sort of month and a half, she's been doing this. She's gotten 13 inquiries from homeowners in the target market she wants to work to actually think about selling their property. 13 responses in less than 6 weeks of doing this. So this is an example, Chris, of, you mentioned at the beginning of the call, I thought you framed it perfectly. Little things that you can add to your routine that generate revenue for the business. And so I think oftentimes when you think about the promotion of a listing, we tend to over-index on like when the home hits the market. This is an example of like indexing when either there isn't a home on the market or when a home sells. So if you can't do it in your area for whatever fair housing rules exist in California, I would challenge you to find ways in which you can do it. And that might be telling a story around something related to real estate that connects with the consumer in a meaningful way. Because it's not really about like the buyers. It's about the story. It's about the personal touch. It's about the localization. That's why these letters work. And that's why everyone here should be doing them.
Sure. And then this is also in the marketing bucket, Jimmy, which is something that I know is near and dear to your heart, and you spend a lot of time on it, which is now, how do I get more listings? Like, I want to challenge people between now and the end of the year, because that was the idea, Q4. I want you to think of your listing like a person that you're trying to make as famous as possible, as quickly as possible. So think of it as like, you want your house to become an influencer. You want their following to blow up when it kind of goes live or coming soon or whatever the stages are that you can do promotion. But what happens is when you go all out and you do great marketing everywhere and you let the seller know that you did, and you pull some of the really powerful data and statistics about how the marketing performed for them. This is a way where, it goes a little bit beyond the relationship and just, oh, they were nice. And, oh, I saw your stuff everywhere. This is where it goes, when you tell your friend about it, you mention this type of stuff, right? Because no one's ever done it. We've had stories of by doing this, how it really appeases the seller, even sellers that are insanely difficult. The way that you advertise and market and invest in your listing promotions is also going to be a direct reflection and directly correlated to your ability to get a price reduction. It's going to be directly correlated to your ability that when a listing expires, that you'll get it again. The listings are so hard to get in an easy market like this where things are selling quickly. People aren't doing this important step. And there's only a couple things that truly matter to a seller, and marketing is one of them. So you're probably not the best agent in your market, but you can be the best agent at marketing listings in your market. And that comes with a lot of benefit and inbound inquiries as well. What would you add here, Jimmy? When I look at this screen, what is happening for this listing compared to maybe what do most people do?
Yeah. Before I answer that, I was in Las Vegas not too long ago, and I had a chance to speak at an event for Joe Herrera and Taylor Prince, longtime Curaytor clients. They're doing about 200 listings every year. And one of the things that he said to me, he goes, the reason why people hire us is because of the way in which we market their listing. So they get inbound inquiries, say, I'd like you to market my home like the one you just shared on Facebook. And so this is something that listing agents do differently than buyer agents who happen to have listings, because I do make a distinction between those two, Chris. A listing agent versus a buyer's agent who happens to have a listing is the best way to win more listings is to promote the ones you already have. And so from a practical standpoint, what you want to think about is saying, what is the GCI on this deal? Okay, let me take 15% of that GCI and allocate that towards the marketing and the launching of this listing. And so not just like dropping it on Facebook and spending $5, but like putting a real budget behind it. That reinvestment is like how compound interest works in the financial side of things. So what you're looking at here, Chris, is what I would actually advocate for is a few things. Number one, every single time you have a listing, you should put a big Facebook budget behind it, $100, $200 minimum to promote that home. Number two, that listing needs to be on Instagram with a budget. It needs to be a story. If you can create a reel or a short form video, you should definitely do that for TikTok, for YouTube Shorts, for obviously Instagram, and now most recently Facebook Reels. We offer this as a service, but I think retargeting is a really smart tactic here, which is to build a custom retargeting campaign. You can use Google Display Network or AdRoll, where you actually have someone visits your home and then they start to see that home everywhere. I think your sellers are going to love that. And then, of course, the one that we're huge fans of, the last two here, is email marketing. Like, don't let the listing alert be the email marketing you do for this listing. Create a custom email that promotes the home, tells the story about the home. This is such a massive opportunity, and we see our clients really leverage this in a smart way. And then lastly, you heard us mention earlier about YouTube pre-roll ads. If you're shooting a video, which you should be shooting a video, even if the damn home sells in 5 days, you should be shooting a video. If you're using a video, running a $50, $100 pre-roll ad, getting 2 cents a view in market audience in your local area is a fantastic way to get your name, your face, your brand, your listing in front of your audience. So Chris, add all of that up, right? And then say, I'm going to do that for every listing. And then watch what happens to your brand. Watch what happens to your business.
Well, and that's what we're really talking about, is do all of these things for your personal brand and do all of these things for your listings. And that kind of combination is what gets the most come list me calls possible. This one I'll cover quickly, and then we'll wrap it up with OpenDoor and Raleigh and the market share that they've picked up there. But the 9-word email in the conversion code was one of the most successful and sort of breakthrough moments for a lot of people. I have countless people who have messaged me like saying, oh my God, that was crazy. I can't believe how well it worked. Here's how many deals I got. Holy crap. And I won't go deep into the psychology, but short and sweet, is it occasionally the right type of an email to send? So as an example, as we get towards the end of the year, this is a technique pioneered by a guy named Dan Kennedy. And the subject line is, hey, and then merge code for first name. Hey, Jimmy. Hey, Chris. Hey, Lisa. Obviously, it helps if you have their name, right? To fill that in. Quick question. Are you selling your home in 2022? And you would be amazed at how many responses you'll get to that. It's not an HTML template. It's not a newsletter. There's no design. It just sort of seems like you took a second to send the message, and it does really well, and people get a ton of replies. So I would say that between now and the end of the year, you should send this to every lead you've generated throughout this year. You know, if you're already sending stuff similar to this to your past clients, it's a little bit more in depth, you know, exclude them from this email blast. But you would be amazed at how many listing opportunities that message can create from buyer leads in your database. And the other thing, I basically called it like the fuck it strategy, which was like, at a minimum, you should send this to every old and unresponsive lead that you have. So if you have leads that you got no other chance, maybe I should call it the Hail Mary. Like, why not? You know what I'm saying? Why not? Nothing else is working anyway. So the 9-word message gets a lot of traction. Anything to add, Jimmy?
Yeah, listen, I like the fuck it strategy, which is like there's literally like you at which point like it's the lead. There's no downside. And I actually think, by the way, I actually do think there's a really important lesson there, Chris, which is if you're going to experiment with your marketing, I like to experiment where there's a low risk. So I like to try things like scripts on leads that are just completely unresponsive because I have literally nothing to lose. So I love this idea. This, by the way, this works with not only old leads, but it works with new leads and prospects. Yeah. It's a super effective campaign. It's the funny thing about this campaign. It's so obvious and so simple. You think it shouldn't work, but it does, which is why I love it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's something that I think I'd like to think that I'm an advocate for, which is messages that are meant to get a response are really valuable. More valuable than an open or a click is getting a reply. And most people fail to attempt that in mass. Yeah. And it just works really great. Last thing here, Jimmy, and this is on the advertising front, 10 out of 10. The last thing is that you mentioned OpenDoor recently, and you're talking about that they were in Raleigh and the market share they had picked up. And when I see the iBuyer movement framed normally, they're saying, oh, what percentage of the total transactions is it? You know, or they're saying how much market share do they have? And then the number looks really sad and depressing. But you open my eyes to this idea that if you just viewed OpenDoor as like a new real estate team or agent that just took the approach of we'll buy your house instantly, they would be the number one team and they would have the most market share in that MLS right now in a very short amount of time. Talk through your idea there, because it was fascinating to me. I keep thinking about it, that it's easy to kind of laugh at them at scale, but if you just look at them as a team that entered the market in the last 2 to 3 years and they're already number one, you would be taking notes. You would be wanting to learn from them, you know? So talk about OpenDoor.
Give me a little runway here, Chris, because this is maybe so fundamental to the future of real estate and where all of us need to be going is, what you're looking on the screen right now is Chris has a breakdown of OpenDoor's commission and their conversion ratio based on their commission. So what you see here is they have effectively a 34% conversion rate of real sellers. They define a seller as someone who goes to their website and requests an offer and either accepts that offer or lists their property with an agent and is on the MLS within 60 days. Now, notably, what you'll see here is that they have a conversion ratio of 44%, basically 1 in every 2, when they charge 6%. They have a conversion ratio of 1 in 4 when they charge 10%. And so you have two worlds. You have this race to the bottom that is Redfin, 1%, commission. That's all we're going to charge. And what you do is you sort of like all you sell is price. You don't really sell value. And that creates a lot of problems for Redfin. It's why Redfin's sort of where it's at right now. It's an amazing, amazing platform they built that no one really uses to sell their home with, relatively speaking. Like they don't really command the space they occupy. Everybody uses Redfin, but like so few people actually use a Redfin agent. OpenDoor, on the other hand, OpenDoor has done a remarkable job at building up the value proposition. Now, this is what they do at OpenDoor. They say they have 4 key pillars. They say, we're going to take the complex and we're going to make it simple. We're going to take the uncertain and we're going to make it certain. We're going to take the slow and we're going to make it fast. And we're going to take the human intensive and we're going to make it safe. So they sell simplicity, certainty, speed, and safety. And if you think about that from your perspective, Chris, I think if you're an agent, and one of our clients, Gretchen Coley, does this really well, is you need to lean into those sort of key value propositions, right? Safety, speed, certainty, convenience. You need to lean into that as part of your value proposition. And so how do you, as an agent, differentiate yourself from the 1.5 million other people who do your job, who the 87,000 new people who just got their license in the last 12 months, the new agent who just got their license 6 minutes ago? How do you differentiate yourself from those individuals? You need to focus in on speed, simplicity, certainty, right? That is what really matters. So what they're doing is they have the positioning of, get your free offer, close within 48 hours. Like, I'm not suggesting you have to build an iBuyer program like Gretchen's doing, which she has done. But what I want you to do is I want you to think about your business through that lens. How can I make the process more streamlined for my customers? How can I make it simpler for them? How can I provide certainty in the process? As opposed to saying, hey, I think I can sell your house for X. How do I insert certainty in the process? That's what you need to do, Chris, to really stand out. And by the way, OpenDoor has done it. They become the #1 agent in Raleigh. They're not going to stop. Their market cap, Chris, is $14 billion. Realogy, which sells literally like 100 times more homes every quarter than OpenDoor, is $2 billion. This is the future, guys. And I think we can be a part of it if we just adjust our messaging and our brand and our strategy.
Yeah, it's fascinating stuff. I was actually working on a chapter today about your pitch. And what I thought of as I worked on it was that OpenDoor's pitch is 100% eliminating pain. And the real estate agent and industry's pitch is typically 100% positive, and how good we are, and our reviews, and our service, and our dedication, communication, right? And OpenDoor was like, no, there's a lot of pain in the process. Let's just point that out. So back to an earlier example, it's a pain point for people that someone lists their home and the agent doesn't communicate with them or do any marketing for the property. They just put it in the MLS and they don't do anything else. So instead of saying, we have the best marketing in Tampa, go after the angle that your home deserves better. Here's the current broken and average process that doesn't happen when you come here. And I wanted to share with people one last thing, which is super useful, is if you go to the Facebook ads library, it's just /ads/library, facebook.com/ads/library. And you go into OpenDoor. You can also just go to their page and you can find this too. But you pull up their Facebook page and it will show you all of their active ads, all of their recent ads. And this is the eye test, right? Kind of confirming like having humans in the ads does really well. Does your home qualify? They've been doing this a while now. That's powerful language. Hey, Raleigh, does your home qualify? Orlando, does your home qualify? Wonder what we'd pay for your home if we bought it today. Find out, right? And look how they just rinse and repeat in different markets. Columbus, does your home qualify? Here's what you mentioned with eliminating pain: get an offer in months, weeks, days, minutes, right? You can see their game plan.
Yeah.
And I think you would be crazy not to lean into this movement.
Yeah. I think the world is better when a consumer gets to work with a real human being who has experience, who has the knowledge to deliver a great service to the client. This is too important to leave up to an algorithm or leave up to a company that like a big business that's just sort of completely detached from society. And let me give you an example of this. When the real estate market went to shit, Chris, at the beginning of COVID, guess who was the first people to close down their doors? It was Zillow.
Yeah.
Guarantee you, agents were fielding calls from past clients in sphere of influence saying, what am I supposed to do right now? So I believe, and I think Curaytor as a company believes in the importance of really good agents. Now, there are a lot of shitty agents out there who don't deserve to be in this industry because the bar's too low. But great agents are always going to have a place, but we've got to adapt. We can't fight against the machine here. This is where the world's going. We have to make sure that we're leaning into what makes us different. So, Chris, let's end with this. I'll do the quick sales pitch here. Hopefully, you guys got a ton of value out of today's session. Chris and I put a lot of work into this. And we wanted to give you guys some inspiration to help you run a listing first business. At Curaytor, we help listing agents get more listings. We provide you with the people, the plan, and the platform to get your marketing done right. We attract the best of the best because we do things very differently here at Curaytor. We're actually offering a special pricing for anyone who's signing up before the end of the month here. If you go to Curaytor.com/offer, we have ramp pricing. Our team will get into details with you on exactly how that works. But if you go to Curaytor.com/offer, you can enter in your email address. You can schedule a time to meet with our team directly, and we'll see if we'll be a good fit for your business. I think the best Curaytor clients, Chris, are the ones who come to us who understand the importance of building their brand, understand the importance of investing in their marketing, and above all else, want to do things differently. That has always been central to everything we've done here at Curaytor. And so hopefully today's session provided some value for you guys, give you a sense of the types of coaching we provide for our clients, as well as the types of philosophies that we believe in. Chris, any closing thoughts, my friend?
No, I'm dropping the link in the chat to /offer, just so it's easy for people to learn more. Our team will tell you about the deal, the pricing, everything else involved with that. Figure out if you're the right fit, if Curaytor makes sense. But if you are a listing agent, we didn't go too deep on this earlier, Jimmy. We have really uncovered that there are some real challenges in promoting listings in the sense of it happens fast, and it takes time to do it right. You can't automate everything, right? And so that service, like if you are an agent with listings and a team, that flywheel, funnel, whatever you want to call it, that we can create is insanely powerful.
Yeah.
And it's just getting started. So make sure you ask the team about how we can help you promote your listings, make them famous, build their following, whatever you want to call it. But thank you guys for tuning in. I saw Audrey say she had 4 pages worth of notes, which is super cool. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the presentation, whether we end up working together or not, but good stuff, Jimmy. Thank you guys for tuning in, and we hope you have a great Q4 and a great Q1.